1, 2, 3. Ah, 1, 2, 3.
I mean, these chairs is not to view it as a backrest. It's really a butt rest. So look,
Nobody ever eats turkey outside of Thanksgiving.
you can't keep your mouth shut.
Pecan.
Yeah,
Pecan?
I'm arguing against this right now.
We're talking green poo all the way up the back towards the neck.
Oh, yikes.
You're not like a brontosaurus or something.
Like you eat like a herbivore.
So, I thought you were pretty awkward.
I'm having fun, but to be honest, I'm getting kind of hungry.
Well, now I am all fired up. Let's go. All right.
And this actually means I'm a baboon and you're not, Squash Banana.
What's up, everybody? My name is Clay, and I'm joined by my friend Jacob Moreland. Many of you guys know him. If you don't, you need to get to know him. He's the man, the myth, the legend. And we are joining for another video. Whether you are a high schooler at a house group, you're a middle schooler watching as you're catching up, or you just found us on YouTube, whatever your case is, we are glad that you're watching. And we are in the second week of our series called Chase the Whisper of the Wind. But this week, we are talking about waiting. Oof. And this idea of waiting, it can be a difficult one for a lot of us. There's a lot of stuff we have to wait on in life. And a lot of times, you know, we're coming off the Christmas season.
Yeah.
One thing we wait on is gifts. And sometimes waiting on those gifts is a good thing. And sometimes waiting on those gifts can be a really terrible thing. So, Jacob, what is the worst gift you have ever received?
I could go through a laundry list of gifts I received from my grandmother. We nicknamed her Crazy Granny, and it's because of the gifts that she would give us.
Can I guess her name before we start?
Yeah.
Betsy?
Name.
Debbie?
Vivian. Vivian Rose. Worst gift I ever got, though, was from my grandma. She got me a power strip.
No.
She actually wrapped up a power strip
Stop.
and thought that I could use it. And even worse, that same Christmas in my stocking, she gave me Betty Boop lip gloss.
I don't know which one's worse. Look at all Vivian Rose's lips.
You want to be like these?
You want to be like this?
Kylie Jenner.
I was going to say the worst gift I've gotten. I got it like 6 months ago. And it was when some friends were in town. And
Oh, boy.
My friend Corey goes, "Hey, Clay, I got a gift for you." While I was looking down at my phone, so I popped my head open. And as I popped my head up, I got smacked in the chest with a dirty diaper. So I think yours is worse, though.
I've actually been hit with a dirty diaper in Kids Rock, and it wasn't a gift.
On a similar note, what's something you wanted as a kid that you waited on forever?
Are you familiar with the Blue Man Group?
Yes. That was my costume for Halloween for 7 straight years.
You look like Violet Beauregard. They had like this little piano thing that was the Blue Man Group. Back in the early 2000s, I waited for that thing for 4 years, and I finally got it. And then I broke it about 3 days after Christmas.
I have so many questions for the Blue Man Group.
What are your names?
Why are you blue?
Who did this to you?
So, Jacob, why do you think people struggle to wait on God?
I think people struggle to wait on God. Like, the big glaring answer to that is it's one thing to wait on like a date or wait on an item that you know is coming, or you know you're going to get on Christmas or your birthday or a vacation that's on a certain day. But God doesn't give us dates. And it's kind of hard to like judge how long you're really waiting because he's on God's time. It's not up to us. It's not up to like earthly time. Like, we don't know when it's going to happen, so it's harder to wait.
Yeah, wow, that's really good, and I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. You know, we talked about it last week, just about the voice of God, and a lot of times the reason people struggle hearing the voice of God or wanting to even listen to the voice of God is because something's happened in their life, and then they struggle and they struggle and they struggle, and they're waiting for God to show up, and it just feels like He never shows up. And that time between when the struggle happens and when He shows up feels like way longer than any other time period.
Yes.
And I think the story that we're talking about today, to jump into this Chase the Whisper of the Wind series, is a really good one for it, and it's about a guy named Job. So can you give us some backstory on this guy named Job? Like,
Job was like Elon Musk meets Steve Jobs meets Bill Gates meets Mother Teresa because he was a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
And but he lived in the land of Uz. It's like the Great Value version of Oz.
I tell you what, I love saying the word Uz. Everybody, on the count of 3, we're all going to say Uz. 1, 2, 3.
Uz. He lived in Uz. My man had like 7,000 sheep, like 3,000 camels, like tons of livestock, and He had many, many servants. He had 7 sons, 3 daughters, a beautiful family, and he was a good man. It says that he was blameless and upright, which means he was wise and he had great character. So like this dude,
good things.
he was a good man.
Yeah.
So yeah,
He's in a good spot. And that's where it gets really interesting because you have this guy who's got it as good as it is, and he's got a great relationship with God. He's doing well in that regard too. And this is what ends up happening to him. In Job 10 through 12, it says this: "You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property." This is Satan talking. And it says, "You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, you may test him," the Lord said to Satan. "Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but do not harm him physically." So Satan left the Lord's presence. That's an ominous setup, right? That's scary.
sounds like a really deep like drama series on Netflix.
So can you give us just the quick, short answer of what ends up happening to Job?
Yeah, so Satan does go, and he strips Job of everything basically in a single day. He takes all of his livestock, all of his possessions, his house, everything. He takes his 7 sons, his 3 daughters, and he strips them down to nothing. And you can ask your small group leader why Satan was talking to God and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
A lot of stuff go with that.
yeah, but yeah, he takes all of his possessions away basically.
So he goes from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, loses everything. And I think students feel like that a lot. What situations do you find students to be that are similar to that?
A lot of times, especially like in middle school and high school, status and popularity are really big. And a lot of times I feel like students hide their home life as best they
100%.
can. And a lot of times you don't know what a student's going through unless you like dig in a little deeper. But like students, they go through a lot,
Absolutely.
man. And like they could have their friends turn their back on them because they're trying to pursue God, or mom and dad might be getting a divorce, or just tragedy strikes and no one walks them through how to handle these things. And so like they're basically left to fend on their own unless they have someone in their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what do you see the typical response to that struggle being?
I kind of see it in one or two ways. Either they internalize it and they bottle it up and they don't want to be a burden to anybody. And basically what it comes down to is it boils over one day and then just blows up into a big traumatic episode. Or they throw their hands up and say, why me? Why me? Why me? Like, why'd you do this to me, God? Or if there is a God, like, why would he allow this to happen to me? Like things like that. Or they point fingers and they make excuses and blame other people and don't take ownership of it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of students that may be in that situation right now. What are the warning signs that they may have those responses developing within them?
That's a good question. I feel like a good warning sign is just honestly just being irritable. Because I know for me, I know that I haven't been spending the time with God that I should be. When I start getting irritated at my wife, I start getting irritated at little tiny things, and like they bother me more than they should. I feel like another warning sign is when like there are introverts, and introverts naturally want to be by themselves, but like community is such a strong thing. And when you feel a natural tendency to just always be away from people and not want to hang out with your friends or your family, like that
could be a pretty good warning
that
sign.
can be bad news.
Yeah, and I think these are typical responses, and that's the kind of response we would expect out of Job. You expect him to break down and lose everything, but this is what Job ends up saying after a bunch of bad stuff happens to him. He says, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." Weird response there. And then all this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Job still worshiped God when things were bad, which is crazy because so many people have the opposite response to that. And so many people get angry and so many people get frustrated. And some people say, God, this is all on you.
Yep.
But he said, praise the Lord in the midst of that.
Yep.
Why do you think he was able to wait on the Lord to answer his problems?
Not to get too deep here, but I think something that's overlooked at the beginning of the book of Job is that Job made consistent sacrifices to God, like offerings to God, not only for himself, but his entire family.
Yep.
Before they even committed a sin, or even if they might have made a sin. And that was when everything was perfect for Job.
Yes.
So he worshiped, spent time with God when everything was going well, drew closer to God, learned more about him. So when everything was taken away, he was able to realize that God's deeper than the things he gives us.
Yeah.
And that God obviously was up to something, and that he had trust in God because he knew that God is sovereign and that he will take that situation and make it good. Because if we only praise God for the good things we get, if those things are stripped away, our faith will crumble.
Absolutely. So how can we have that same faith? What are some steps we can take to practice that same mentality?
I think drawing back on last week, finding time to get alone, spend quality connect time with God through prayer, through studying his word, asking questions that confuse you or you might have doubts about.
Yeah.
I feel like that's crucial.
It's very underrated. People don't think they can ask questions, but people should ask questions.
Yeah, we want you guys to ask questions.
100%.
And like those questions, that's what shapes your faith. Because like if you just slide them under the rug, it becomes brittle. And then when something like what happened to Job here happens, it just all comes apart. So ask questions to people who imitate Christ, and spend good time with them. Like talk with Clay. He loves deep theological questions. But constant time with God. Spend constant time with people who spend time with God, and ask questions to those people.
And in the end, what's going to happen is God's going to show up.
Yep.
He's going to show up. He ended up showing, if you read through the book of Job, you see that God showed up for Job when he needed it.
Yes.
He showed up in the end, and that's going to happen to us. He's going to show up when we need him to show up. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a season of waiting. So when we are in a season of waiting on God to speak to us, what we need to do is draw back into him and ask those questions, and really, rather than running away from God in the time of turmoil, run towards him and come closer to him and really embrace that. Because maybe it's not waiting, maybe it's working with him during that time.
Yes.
I don't know if that's I'm just thinking that, but we can waste a time of waiting.
Yes.
When we really could be working towards something better.
Yeah, working while you wait is so powerful, because God, you can wait on God to make a response, but God can't shoot the arrow for you. He'll give you all the materials, he'll give you all the tools you need to do, but he's not going to shoot the arrow for you. You have to do it yourself.
Absolutely.
So while you wait, spend time with him, love other people, because that's essentially what his word says to do, is love him, love other people.
If you do that, you're going to be
do
good.
something about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like our church was founded on.
Yeah,
it's
great. It's crazy.
But also in realizing that what we want the most, or what we want taken away the most, makes time drag on so much. Because this story of Job, it could have taken place over the span of as little as 8 days, at the most months.
Yeah.
So what happened to Job was terrible, but at the end, like you said, God gifted him a double portion of everything.
Yep.
And then Job lived another 140 years after that. So he went through this season of hurt and of pain and of tragedy, but God always came through for him. And he answered him through the wind, which I love this series. It's
so cool.
Good.
It's so cool. So as we enter time response, students go to small groups, or if someone's kind of debating on how to respond from here if they're watching online, what's one thing a student or someone just watching could do this week that will help them in this season of waiting?
It's such a ethereal thing to say, practice trust. But
Have a great small group. If you have any questions, drop a comment. We'd love to have that. Send a text to a leader if you have a question, if you're catching up, whatever you need to do. We'll see you guys soon, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.